In support of his claim that illegal immigrants cause housing prices to go up, Senator Vance provided some links. So let's go through them. In the debate, he referred to a Fed study. However, this is a speech of brief remarks. There's no empirical test in these comments from Michelle Bowman, who said, given the current low inventory of affordable housing, the inflow of new immigrants to some geographical areas could result in upward pressure on rents. Note the word could and the observation of given a fixed supply of housing. This is the crux of the entire debate. For she also notes that progress on inflation this last year was due to supply side improvements, due in part to immigration. You see, as mentioned in my previous video, deportations will shock the housing market both on the demand side via smaller population, as well as the supply side via more expensive construction and renovation. Prices will go down if deported individuals contribute more to the housing demand than they contribute to housing supply. On the other hand, if they disproportionately contribute to housing supply more than housing demand, their deportation will result in house prices going up. Economic theory alone cannot answer this. We have to go out into the real world, into the real context, and test it. And empirical tests will be context specific. Some policies in some places might affect one more than the other. On to the next. Vance cites two more studies. The second one is actually an empirical study. It came out in 2017. But unfortunately for our question, they explicitly control for housing supply. They keep it constant in their estimation technique. They show that increasing immigrant share, or the demand for housing, while holding the permits for construction housing or the supply of housing constant, you're going to find higher rents. Of course, but this explicitly doesn't tell us anything about what happens to housing supply with deportation of undocumented workers. The third source Senator Vance links to is a really great report from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. Go read it, but note it says nothing about housing. It noted that the recent surge in immigration will increase both taxes paid as well as expenditures from more services. They explicitly estimate this at the federal level, noting that on net, it will lower deficits by $900 billion over the next 10 years. CBO does not explicitly calculate the effect on state and local budgets. However, they guess that opposite of the federal government, the revenues in will be smaller than the expenditures out. Then it becomes a question: is the fiscal benefit to the federal government bigger than the fiscal cost to the state and local governments? The CBO doesn't say. The CBO report also notes that GDP will be $1.4 trillion bigger 10 years from now as a consequence of the increased population and increased productivity. After a few years, immigrants engage in more and more entrepreneurial activity, increasing the productivity for the entire economy. None of Senator Vance's citations estimate the full effect of immigration on housing, and the one study cited explicitly held the supply of housing constant. As mentioned in my previous video, we do have a paper that does estimate the effect of deportation on both demand and supply. They noted that previous studies mainly focused on the demand channel. The new work finds the supply effects are far greater than the demand effects. Mass deportations of 10 to 15 million people will be a huge supply chain disruption.